personally visit Moscow to meet with senior Russian officials just weeks after the October 7th massacre. And so it's no surprise that Iran is fueling conflict in both Gaza and Ukraine by giving arms to Hamas and drones to Putin. Now, despite his isolation, Putin believes that he can outlast the Ukrainians, but he is wrong. The Kremlin is waging an unjust war of imperial aggression, but Ukraine is fighting a defensive war for national survival. And you can feel that urgency on the ground. And that gives Ukraine a huge strategic advantage of a just cause. Now, Putin also thinks that he can outlast us. He believes that our coalition will splinter, that our willpower will fade, and that our democracy will just get distracted. But once again, Putin is wrong. And we must continue to be clear to the American people about the stakes in Ukraine. Ukraine matters profoundly to America and to the entire world. And it matters for 4 key reasons. First, Putin's war poses a stark and direct threat to security in Europe and beyond. Second, Putin's aggression is a clear challenge to our NATO allies. Third, the Kremlin's deliberate cruelty is an attack on our shared values of democracy and decency. And finally, Putin's war is a frontal assault on the international rules-based order. So the outcome of this struggle will define global security for decades to come. And we don't have the option of sitting it out. So President Biden has laid down a clear objective. The United States seeks a free and sovereign Ukraine that can defend itself today and deter more Russian aggression in the future. And so we are working together with our allies and partners to help Ukraine build a future force that can ward off more Russian malice in the years to come. Because if we don't stand up to the Kremlin's naked aggression today, if we don't deter other would-be aggressors, we will only embolden them. And we will invite more bloodshed and more chaos. Russia's invasion of Ukraine offers a grim preview of a world of tyranny and turmoil that should make us all shudder. And that's important far beyond Europe. Our national defense strategy describes the People's Republic of China as America's most consequential strategic competitor and the pacing challenge for the Department of Defense. The PRC is our only rival with the intent and increasingly the capacity to reshape the international order. The PRC hopes that the United States will stumble and become isolated abroad and divided at home. But together, we can prevent that fate. And we've made extraordinary progress along with our allies and partners in meeting the China challenge and forging a more secure Indo-Pacific. In this decisive decade, 2023 will be remembered as a decisive year for implementing U.S. defense strategy in Asia. And so we're making our force posture in the Indo-Pacific far more distributed, mobile, and resilient. We're helping our friends build up their own capabilities to defend themselves. And we're working with allies and partners like never before. You know, I've made 4 trips to the Indo-Pacific this year. And with each trip, we've made even more progress. In Manila this February, we announced the expansion of our Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement with the Philippines to allow U.S. access to 4 more Philippine facilities. In New Delhi this summer, we unveiled a new roadmap for defense industrial cooperation with India. Now that strategy is already driving our work together on key defense platforms. We also rolled out a major deal to build aircraft engines in India. And when I was back in India last month, we announced our intent to co-produce armored vehicles with India, our first time with any foreign partner. In May, I visited Tokyo to further modernize our alliance with Japan as Japan doubles its defense budget. In July, I became the first Secretary of Defense to visit Papua New Guinea. And we made even more history by agreeing to a defense cooperation agreement between our 2 countries. When I visited Seoul a couple of weeks ago, we chartered a bold future for our alliance with the Republic of Korea by signing a new tailored deterrent strategy. And along with our partners in Tokyo and Seoul, we made strides in trilateral cooperation with our 2 great allies in Northeast Asia. I also flew to Brisbane in July for the U.S.-Australia ministerial consultations, which showed that our unbreakable alliance is even stronger than ever. And finally, we're deepening our historic AUKUS partnership with 2 of our closest allies, Australia and the United Kingdom. And so yesterday, I hosted Secretary Shapps of the UK and Deputy Prime Minister Marles of Australia here in California for our second AUKUS Defense Ministers meeting. And through AUKUS, our 3 democracies are helping Australia acquire a conventionally armed, nuclear-powered submarine. And we're forging deeper partnerships among our defense industrial bases and our innovation ecosystems. Now, all of this builds on a blunt military reality. And that reality is that allies and partners help us project power and share the burden of our common security. But don't just take it from me. Take it from President Reagan, who said that our security ultimately rests on the confidence and cohesion of our alliance system. Yet, our strength abroad is rooted in our strength at home and in our ability to stay ahead of coming challenges. And that's why we push so hard to invest in innovation and in our defense industrial base, and above all, in our people. You know, I had a great visit yesterday at our Defense Innovation Unit in Silicon Valley. DIU focuses on fielding and scaling commercial technology across the military. It is directly plugged into Silicon Valley, working with venture capital firms and tech innovators who are often doing business with DoD for the first time. And it will help us deliver thousands of game-changing capabilities at speed and at scale. When we sharpen our tech edge, we expand our military edge. And that's why we're making such major investments in innovation. And we're giving the American taxpayer extraordinary value, even while our spending on national defense as a percentage of GDP remains about half of what it was during the last decade of the Cold War. The department's budget request includes $145 billion for R&D and $170 billion for procurement. Now, those are the largest such investments in U.S. history. We're also making major investments in combined joint all-domain command and control. And those investments will make us even better at joint operations and combat integration. To remain nimble, we've also created the Office of Strategic Capital, which will help attract and scale private capital in our critical technologies. We're also making unprecedented use of the multi-year procurement authorities provided by Congress to deliver critical munitions at affordable cost. This includes the Naval Strike Missile, the Maritime Strike SM-6 missile, and the Long Range Anti-Ship Missile. Now, Ukraine's high burn rate for artillery has hammered home the need to invest even more in munitions. So compared to the defense budget from just 5 years ago, we're putting nearly 50% more money into munitions. And during this administration, America's production of artillery shells won't just increase, it won't just double, it will quadruple. Meanwhile, we've launched what the Army calls the most ambitious modernization effort in nearly 40 years for our defense industrial base. And so some $50 billion of our supplemental budget request would flow through our defense industrial base. And that will create or support tens of thousands of good American jobs in more than 30 states. That includes making missiles in Arizona, in vehicles in Wisconsin, in Indiana, in artillery shells in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Texas. And that all means greater prosperity at home and greater security around the globe. And that brings me to one final strategic advantage that no competitor can match. And that is nearly 3.4 million American patriots who protect our country every day, either by serving in uniform or as civilians of the department. Our people rise to every challenge, and I am determined to do right by them and their families. So this year we secured a 4.6% pay raise for our troops and civilian workers, which was the largest in 2 decades. We increased our basic allowance for housing this year by an average 12.1%, the largest percentage increase in 15 years. We're working to provide universal pre-K at our DoD schools, offering flexible savings accounts to make child care more affordable, and giving 12 weeks of paid parental leave to service members. We're making it easier for our outstanding military spouses to flourish in their own careers, including new benefits and new ways to help agencies and companies retain military spouses when their families are ordered to move abroad. We are one team, and we don't have one single teammate to spare. And so we will not tolerate sexual assault or sexual harassment in the U.S. military. And by the end of this month, independent military prosecutors will tackle cases of sexual assault, domestic violence, and other serious crimes. And we're driving hard to reduce the tragedy of suicide in our ranks by improving the delivery of mental health care and ending the old stigmas of seeking help. And we do all of this for one simple reason. Our people are the greatest strategic asset that we have. The U.S. military is the most lethal fighting force in human history, and we're going to keep it that way. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the United States of America. It's not